And how about what you and I were talking about before we started recording? You mentioned you had some shit you wanted to talk about, and I don't know. Is this going to be funny?
No.
Oh,
well,
shit.
yes.
Oh, yes. Okay.
In retrospect, portions of it might be funny.
Well,
I mean, it's all done now, so. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know how to answer that.
Let's
honestly.
hear it.
Well, I was reflecting on the invisible disability here that I have with the bipolar.
Yes.
Because I actually, I have 2 new med prescribers lined up that I'm going to meet with.
Uh-huh.
So virtually 2 new second opinions rather than 1. One is this month and 1 won't be for a couple months. Anyway, I was reflecting upon when I was first diagnosed with it 14 years ago.
Yeah.
The initial thing that ran through my mind was like, oh, shit, like, what do I do with this now? As far as who do I tell? When do I tell them? How do I tell them? You know, all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Kind of just ran through my mind. And the worst possible situation probably happened with my dad and how I could have told him, because I forget why he was staying over my grandmother's house. But I woke up in like a pretty messed up state of mind. I was like psychotic, and I was somehow trying to make it from my room to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And I couldn't walk. So I was like crawling, like on the ground, like literally crawling. And I guess he found me like halfway between my room and the bathroom on the floor. And I didn't make the bathroom. I lost control of my bladder.
Oh, that seems to be a topic
It's a
that
topic.
comes up a lot here.
Well,
It's not too surprising. Anyways, go on
not
with
too
the rest of
surprising.
this story.
It's not too surprising. No, I swear I didn't mean to tie that into this. It's just part of the story this time.
Anyways, keep going.
Yeah, so I really didn't make it. I don't know why, but so long story short, while I was like, this was before I was on antipsychotics, or on a certain antipsychotic. So basically, while I was visually and auditory hallucinating while I was out there in the hallway, and he was helping me get back to the bathroom. He got back to my room. My pants were soaked. I was like changing in front of him, and he's like, "Well, why are you changing?" I'm like, "Well, I didn't make the bathroom." He's like, "Oh, yeah, you didn't." But my point is here, it was like the worst possible situation to admit to him I had bipolar. But the interesting thing was my clarity of mind for that few seconds that I had to tell him that while I was hallucinating is interesting. I don't really know how that sort of lucid state came about.
Yeah.
But I've been reflecting upon this story recently, and the reason I bring it up is because I really don't remember what happened the next morning. Because usually that happens after a psychotic episode.
Of course.
You get
kind of
jumbled and nothing makes sense for a while after it, you know?
Yeah,
like
of
after
course.
coming
I've
down from
had
it.
experience with clients
Yeah.
that have gone through that.
So like that was just like the worst possible situation, you know? And you go to a thing like, who do you tell? When do you tell them? Like I mentioned at the beginning of my, talking here. And it's like some family members I still haven't told, some friends I still haven't told. Well, now that everybody listens to the show, fuck it.
The world knows.
The world knows. But, it's just a weird thing, man.
The NSA knows, dog.
Huh?
The NSA knows.
The NSA. Or the TSA, too. Next time I fly.
Yeah.
Check my bag for
Don't know what's going on.
whatever. Yeah, it might be, smuggling. I don't know.
Whatever,
Nothing.
whatever
I don't smuggle.
medication.
Yeah, medication. So I don't know why I exactly wanted to bring this up, but so that was the way I told my dad, which wasn't really the way I pictured,
Yeah.
just not the worst of possible situations. And then the way I had to tell my mom was like even kind of not as, good. I lost a little bit of a different story here. I lost my cell phone on the ride, but I thought I lost it in my house, so I waited a few days. And long story short, a ride driver found it and racked up a $2,000 bill calling
Holy
like Nigeria.
shit.
Yeah. Or wherever he was calling, some foreign country. So I had to fight that bill, and that was terrible. And I don't know why I ended up telling my mom I had bipolar at the time, but she's like, you better make it look bad because, they want all this money.
You better make it look bad?
That's what she said.
She wanted you to act it out?
Well, not act it out, but she was like, they're after us for all this money, and, we had to fight that.
You better make it look bad, John.
It's a great impression. So that wasn't cool too either, because I would have rather have told her in a different way, I think.
Yeah.
Rather than tell her, well, I can make this look bad so we don't have to pay the phone bill or something, because we had to fight the phone company. Anyways, we did successfully not pay the phone bill. We did whatever. But, my point is that the way you want to tell the two people probably most important in your life that you can tell, it didn't happen in the traditional way I would have wanted it to.
It doesn't, seem like it.
It's just terrible. It's terrible.
Oh, man.
And... I don't talk to a lot of people about the psychosis because it's not exactly an easy thing to approach. I mean, I don't even think we've had a conversation like this off the air.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just not easy because who likes to think, people hallucinate, whether it's auditory, visual, or both.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I was going to ask you about that. Like, if you remember what it was that was going through your mind, like what was your... hallucinatory state like
when my dad found me in the hallway.
I don't know if you remember any of it.
Yeah, the hallway was on fire, and it was just bad.
So had you already started taking the hallucinogens? I mean, the hallucinogens. You know what I mean? Had you already started taking the antipsychotics? Hallucinogens.
The fuck?
It shows where my mind.
Yeah, I really did.
I kind of wanted to tie that.
I'm trying to think. Give me a second to kind of rack my brain. I don't think so. No. The answer is either not at all, or I had started on a one that wasn't working that well.
Yeah,
I can't remember which one.
So well.
Yeah. The house was on fire was the visual hallucination.
Yeah,
and then the auditory. Sometimes the auditory is weird. It's just kind of. You ever go to a party or somewhere there's a lot of people in a small area, and you can just hear them talking, but you don't know what the fuck anyone's saying.
Yeah.
Sometimes
the reverse, when it's like an area that's too opened up and it just the sound just bounces all over the place, and you just
that too. But what I'm saying is sometimes that's what the auditory can be like.
Okay.
So it's a little bit like that. I wish I could remember what happened the next morning. Like, was there a conversation? I can't even.
There must have been.
I can't even recall it, to be honest. I don't know. There must have been something. But like I said before, usually when you come down from those things, it's not the easiest thing to to return to a normal baseline, whatever that is, can take time.
Yeah, of course.
So.
Yeah, and like I said, too,
I picked a great fucking day to talk about this when we have a fucking audience in the room, but that's okay. It's cool.
No, that's fine.
It's cool.
But you
guys probably think I'm gonna hack you up into pieces after this show. Don't worry, guys. Won't happen.
Yeah, but I was actually thinking because you were talking about how you had this moment of clarity, and you decided to tell. But I don't know if that's really that odd because. Based on everything that I've read and researched that's why I said hallucinogens earlier, because I was thinking about people who talk about mushrooms or acid or whatever
the hallucinogen is,
and they always talk about how you definitely get a clarity of mind. As crazy as it sounds, you get a clarity of mind.
Well, there can be lucid moments within it, sure.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. There's lucidity.
Clearly the mind is not clear.
Yeah.
At that point. But yeah, you get moments of it, sure.
Yeah, and you're able to kind of reach certain...
But, I hesitate to talk about this stuff because, I've talked about it with certain people, and they've been real negative. People have been real negative about it before to me, So it's always hard to know who to tell and who to not.
Yeah.
But in the interest of disclosure, I'm now on a much stronger antipsychotic, which I've been on for years.
Yeah.
And it cures about 95% of it. I'm still left with the 5% that kind of runs around sometimes.
And with this particular one that you're taking now, what are some of? Do you have any like side effects that you deal with that with this particular one you're taking now?
The one I'm on now.
Yeah. Pissing yourself all the time?
Yeah, I can have some side effects. I don't know which ones. I'm like, my liver enzymes are inflamed right now, and I don't know if that's a result of it or not. I'm in the process of discovering that, so who knows?
Yeah, the liver always gets
it takes
affected.
a shot from these things.
Always does.
So.
That's one of the biggest things, with like clients and stuff that have been in any type of medication, especially very strong medication.
It's pretty decent dosage I'm on.
One of the first things that go.
So I don't know, man. I mean, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're asking like day-to-day ones...
Yeah, day-to-day stuff.
Not really. Very little.
Mm-hmm.
Which is good.
Yeah. And have you had like any other moments where you found yourself kind of going through any of those things again, like hallucinating, and since that moment?
Oh, yeah.
What kind of...
Like I said, it takes 95% of it away, and then you get the 5% that you kind of got to do something about somehow.
Yeah. And how has that been? I don't know if you have any like experience that you'd like to share with that has happened since, because that's the thing too. A lot of people think like, oh, you're gonna take medication, it's gonna take care of the whole thing.
No, that's never the case.
It's really not. And as when you see with like clients and stuff, it's like you said, most of the times they're just fine, and then every once in a while it kind of lapses a little bit and all that stuff. So that's why I ask.
Well, what happens to me now is if I don't take that even for a night, I can fall into a psychotic episode. It's happened here when I forgot to either pack it or take it, sometimes. So yeah, man. I mean, I still experience it,
Yeah, of course.
So
makes sense.
Yeah,
it's pretty lighthearted stuff. Yeah.
Oh, very, very lightheaded. Very lightheaded. Lighthearted. Lightheaded. Yeah. I don't know, man. I mean, it is what it is. It's just something I've had to learn how to deal with. And, certain things I've realized trigger it: sleep deprivation,
yeah, of course,
stress, whether it's negative or positive, actually. Yeah. So there's triggers for it, for all of it. Of course.
And what
hard subject for me to talk about, man. Even in therapy, I have a hard time talking about it, being honest. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely
it's not exactly the most easy thing to bring up,
yeah, definitely.
In a therapeutic setting.
Definitely. I mean, it's hard because I've, like I said, I've had situations with clients where it's like, that they're being really tentative with what they're saying, and it's hard to get to that point where like you feel, even myself as someone who goes to therapy, and being someone who's in that field,
right.
I find that there are definitely things that are difficult to talk about.
What is it like for you to know that I suffer from it? I mean, because we haven't had this conversation off air, so does it, what's your initial reaction?
I mean, it doesn't...
did you suspect it, or...?
That's the thing, like I was going to say, like, it doesn't really surprise me.
Right.
In some senses, and at the same time, like, it doesn't...
Well, you know more about it than probably any one of my friends do, though.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've been in my therapy sessions with me for various things, and
yeah.
So maybe did you suspect it out of that, or do you just suspect it in general?
Just in general, I think just from conversations.
Yeah.
And it's totally, with me, obviously, it's totally fine. I mean,
yeah.
As you know, it is what it is, and I know that, not to keep going back to this thing, but like having had clients who have gone through similar things, I understand the way that can work sometimes in your life and all that, So I think for me, it's totally fine. I can totally deal with that. I can understand how it'd be difficult for just, most regular, just everyday people to deal with a lot of that stuff, because it's a lot of information, obviously.
Right, it's heavy, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mad heavy, yo.
Mad heavy.
Yeah, but it's just it's hard for me to say that I'm surprised. It's hard for me to say that oh yeah, I have this like major like I don't know reaction to it.
Well, no, you don't have to.
Oh no, I understand, but I'm just letting you know how it is. And
But do you think it's not surprising you because you've worked with people who have these same issues, or is it just not surprising?
I think it's just because we're friends and just getting to know you and stuff and just different conversations. And here's the thing, as that you learn a lot from kind of like me involved in therapy as a therapist.
Yeah.
Is just this idea of kind of like reading between the lines a lot of times, like you're having a conversation, but your mind is kind of like always going to something else in some ways, not necessarily. I'm talking like
in general.
In general, as someone who has had the experience of being in the therapist role, rather than just the
friend role,
the friend or even as a patient or a client.
Okay.
It's not about like analyzing people that I know, but it's just about kind of like hearing different things, and you're like, I can kind of understand and see where that's coming from and all of that stuff. And it's something that I used to always talk to my ex-wife about. She would always be like, "Oh, you analyze me," and all this stuff, which is kind of funny because
you analyze me.
Because it's kind of funny because a lot of times she wanted me to be her therapist, but then when I did in regards to the relationship, she hated it. Which is ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. I didn't want to be the therapist. I just wanted to be.
You want to be the husband.
The husband or whatever, but it's just my personality. I do have a more analytical way of looking at relationships.
What's the odd thing about having this experience?
What?
Is that no matter how much I can talk about it in therapy and have insight to it, it doesn't stop it. There's
Yeah, of course.
And sometimes when I have it now, if I can kind of at the beginning be like, all right, this is what's going on right now, I can kind of calm myself down a little bit.
Yeah.
But if I'm like in the middle of it, sometimes it's just too late. You don't have that.
Oh, yeah, of course.
It's just like, fuck.
You need to grow to really understand your triggers.
And I have. On some, a lot of levels, I know my triggers.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things.
Yeah.
As, when you work with clients, they have similar experiences, as you have, because obviously every person's experience is unique, but, they're similar in the sense that, they've kind of experienced similar things and stuff like that. Yeah. That's really one of the biggest things that you can help them with, is giving them the tools to really understanding their triggers and everything. And I think that's really... It's definitely good that you know that, But I feel like also that's just one of those things that you just keep learning, and you keep working on.
Ongoing process, really. Yeah. Day-to-day process.
Yeah,
sometimes.
that's like, it's like that with everybody, really. Like I was saying earlier, even with myself, I go to therapy maybe like once every 2 weeks, sometimes once a month.
You bring me up in there, dude?
Huh?
You bring me up in there?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Of course,
I make it into your sessions, bro.
Yeah, of course, dog.
You probably like that motherfucker.
Fucking John. Can you believe it? He still wants to do the podcast after everything I've done to get him out of there. He just won't leave, and I don't have the heart to just kick him out.
You can kick me out, bro. I won't take it personal. It's cool.
No, but it's
you glad I make it into your sessions, though. I feel important now.
Yeah, it's mostly just like, I was hanging out with John. Yeah, but it doesn't fucking matter. No, I'm kidding. It's
fuck that motherfucker.
It's just about, like, I think, really, you're always working on like, understanding yourself better. You know, and that's a big thing, too. Like,
what
previously...
a lighthearted show. It's about a lighthearted show today.
Yeah. yeah, but previously they actually used to like part of going to school for psychology. It was actually demanded that you did a certain amount of therapy hours a semester.
Right, no, I get it. Sure.
And they recommend it now, but it's not like an obligated thing.
But you still go?
I still go, of course. It's fucking great.
Yeah, I think everybody should go to therapy. Honestly.
Oh, yeah.
No, because it's really a third party to bounce things off, and it's I think the process of it is very helpful.
That's the thing. Like,
I'm not saying everybody should go weekly or something, but
Yeah. So for example,
have things they could go for.
Not a therapy example, but something that kind of illustrates why it's easier for people to like listen to a third party or whatever. You know, like when I was married, whenever there would be an issue in the marriage, I could be as logical as possible and give my ex-wife like a very logical answer and tell her exactly like how we could, work through something, or she could work through something that was going on in her personal life. Oh, okay. I'd hear from her, oh, I know, I understand that, blah, blah, blah. Nothing would change. As soon as someone else said it, even though it was the same exact shit that I had said, maybe, it changed. So it's just this idea of like, it's fine. Obviously, it's great having your friends and talking to your friends about all this shit.
Wonderful.
It's fine to talk to like parents and your relationship and all this shit. But it definitely does make a difference having that third party there.